What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about if Billy Loomis will return in Scream 2022. Now, we made the same video for Stu, and there's not, too much going, especially I think as time goes on, for the Stu theory, although it's fun to speculate, and maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't happen. But what's interesting here is I do think there is pretty solid backing to Skeet Ulrich in some way being a part of this movie. Now, I want to do this a little bit differently. My friend Critical Overlord, you guys may know him, right? Scream content creator. I'm going to link his channel in the description. He does a great job, and last night he did a video on this, and he explained everything about why he believes Skeet Ulrich is back. I want to highlight some of the things, but if you want the full picture, go watch his video. But basically, it boils down to a couple things. Number one, several people tagged Skeet in terms of Instagram when they were talking about filming and being back on set and being back together, for the movie. Now, that's like the first part. I kind of want to analyze each part individually. That's not the biggest thing in the world because we know like Selena Gomez was tagged, right, from Courtney Cox, and that very well is probably not going to happen. Maybe it does. Again, I really don't want to throw out the possibility of anything, especially when we're talking about dead characters returning. And then you talk about Selena Gomez. I mean, I guess it's possible, but that's not, enough to base the whole argument on. Well, that's fine because that's not the whole argument. Second thing, and I actually did notice this too, again, Critical Overlord put this in his video. There was a kind of a wave of when Skeet and Matthew Lillard were doing, obviously they do conventions together, but they also did a few interviews together. And during that wave of interviews, I think it was back kind of in, late September, early October, there was one article, and I saw the article, and I was like, this is kind of weird how he puts this. He basically said that he's never watched Scream 2 through 4. He's never watched any of the sequels after the movie he was in, but he is going to watch this one. There was also, I think, I don't know if it was like Entertainment Weekly or whatever it was, but him and Matthew Lillard did a thing where they talked about, if Stu's alive, and Skeet was talking about like how his godson or goddaughter or some of them, they wanted him to watch one again. He hasn't watched it in a very, very long time. So it was a little while ago, so I don't remember the exact details, but that to me really, just that article really stood out where it's like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, obviously 5 and maybe Nev went to you or like somebody told you like, hey, you should watch this film or something. It feels the most like 1, so you feel inclined to watch it. But in reality, I think 2 would have made the most sense for him to watch, or 3. I mean, his voice is in the background of 3. I mean, they lift it right from 1, but maybe he watches those, or when 4 comes out, it comes back. Maybe you would watch that, but he's never watched any of them. But he's going to watch 5. Okay, odd. I wouldn't say that's enough either, although now we're getting there. And the final piece of evidence, which is the most, I guess damning, or this really sets it up. Back when they were filming Scream 5, you see a picture of Melissa Barrera. She's in a room on her Instagram, and behind her there's a picture of like basically like a pier or like a dock, right? You see like the water there, you see it. So you have all that. It's like, okay, well, what does that have to do with anything? Then you see Kyle Gallner, right? Vince in the movie. Look to our, I guess, top right. What do you see? It's the exact same picture. Now look at Skeet Ulrich. Look at the top right. Same picture. Also, you can, by the way, see it's the exact same couch. Same color couch, same exact couch, I guess, however you want to say it. So, and this was while they were filming 5. Now, what do we know about that is that they were basically in a little bubble, right? They were in the same hotel together. They were, you hear the story constantly, right? They played games like every single night. They had like a group chat. They were all very, very close, and they were literally, because of, the stuff going on around the world, they were stuck there. So, again, as you could say, well, maybe one was going in, maybe they were filming like different things, or there was like no crossover or whatever, but like they were there all together, and that is the exact same couch, and that is the exact same painting. So that's the evidence portion. Again, Critical Overlord goes over it as well if you guys want to check out his channel. Now, I kind of want to talk about, will it happen and does it make sense? So I do, at this point, I think I'm pretty confident in saying he'll be in it in some capacity. Now, in my opinion, there's 3 ways this can go, right? 3 ways. And one way is actually a new way brought on by Rose McGowan. So let's actually start there, right? So what is that way? Well, remember, she had, I think it was on Facebook or maybe it was on Instagram, she literally just outed it. She said, they came to her and asked her to record lines for this movie. And she doesn't flat out say she denied it, but she also doesn't say she accepted it. And the way she's like talking about it and talking about Kevin Williamson and talking about Miramax and all that stuff, it definitely sounds like she rejected it. She kind of like laughed in their face and said, I'm not doing that. Fine, that's okay. But it's a little disappointing that we don't get to, hear Tatum. But what's the main takeaway in terms of the movie part to that whole thing is they approached her, a legacy character, right, to record voice lines for something. Now, I truly, I try to watch Jamie Kennedy's channel as much as possible. He very much has said multiple times, he doesn't know anything. He's not a part of it. I think he's lying. I do think he's lying. I have a really, I guess I'm starting with the one I think is most likely. I have a strong feeling that at some point of this movie, they're going to have voiceover, at the very least, from some of them. Maybe Stu, maybe Billy, maybe Randy, maybe Tatum. I think those four make the most sense to do it. Now, that's taking that leap or that assumption based off of what Rose McGowan said. Now, it's very possible they just asked her, and only her, for voice. Maybe they did something else for Billy and Stu. Now, we've talked about it in the past. For Billy and Stu specifically, maybe you do a flashback sequence. Now, I still think a flashback sequence makes sense. I mean, that image in the trailer when Ghostface is all, blurry, right, when he's in front of Stu's house, I don't think that's, a real thing that's happening. I feel like that's kind of now that could be a flashback, or it actually could be a hallucination or a memory, maybe from Sydney, or maybe a hallucination from Sam. But I mean, you could, in my opinion, still have some sort of flashback sequence. The third option is to have hallucinations. So this is one that, again, I made a video maybe back last September, a year plus ago, where I talked about flashbacks. Because flashbacks, in terms of movies, and even you see it in Halloween Kills, right? I mean, flashbacks are used, for a specific reason, and even to bring back some characters. So, there's a lot of power there, and it's one of the better ways to do, even with de-aging. You still would bring back, right, Skeet Ulrich, but you would do a flashback, but you would de-age him, and he would be playing, the 20, whatever old he was supposed to be at the time, Billy Loomis. So that's the classic way, the way that a lot of movies do it, but we didn't really have a sense, and I wouldn't even say we had a sense up until a month or two ago about Sam's mental problems, which is hallucinations, right? She's seeing things that aren't real. Now, I guess the only way this makes sense, and I mean this has been heavily speculated, the only way this would make sense is if she is directly related to Billy, right? Because you can say, well, she could hallucinate Billy, but then you have to, I think, go a step further and say, well, why would she hallucinate Billy? Nobody. Now, I guess the whole town probably knows the story, so they know who, was the original two ghost faces. They know who Sydney is. They know who Gail and Dewey is. So I guess she would maybe know who Billy is. But if we're talking hallucinations where they're almost taunting her or messing with her or, whatever, and it would have to be that, by the way, right? Because the hallucination we saw was Ghostface attacking her. But if you're going to have Billy Loomis, right, you need Skeet there, which means his face. You're not going to, I mean, maybe you'll have Billy holding a knife and going to attack her, and that would be, a fake out, that would be a hallucination. But I would think it would be something else where he's talking to her, but he's kind of holding something over her head, or he's taunting her, something like that, right? Mocking her, anything like that. But again, the reason why that would be happening has to be that they're related in some capacity, whether they're brother sister or half brother or sister or father daughter or whatever theory you want to throw out there is fine for this one, okay? But I think it has to be that if it's a hallucination, because there's really no reason. But just honestly, I wouldn't even think if she hallucinated Stu, would that be cool to see Matthew Lillard back? Yes. Would it be cool to see Stu back? Yes. Would it make sense? No. Just because you know who the person is, I don't really think it makes the most sense to have them haunt you in your hallucinations when they're not, they're not really connected to you all that much. So if Billy is hallucinated by Sam, I think they must be connected in some way. But again, that's only one of three. I really think that would honestly even be the last of the things they would do. I think a flashback holds, again, a lot of weight. I think there's a lot of potential that you could do that with, a narration, talking over it, or even it's something that Sydney is remembering, right? Because she's going back to Stu's house, all that stuff. I think that makes sense to have some sort of, not a dream sequence, but, a flashback, of some kind. And then the other one of just a voice, the voice would be 3. That's kind of what I was hinting at when I was talking about the voice. There's really, I don't know, there's no other way you could really do a voice, right? Unless you are, I guess, doing the hallucination thing, but only the voice. So if Sam hears Billy, but she doesn't actually see him. I mean, I guess that is definitely possible. So there, I guess maybe that's like a fourth, but that's like combining, two of the options. But there is that shot. But the thing is, like, that's why I brought in the Rose McGowan thing. It's like, well, if you bring back Billy to do voiceover, or like Skeet Ulrich to do Billy's voiceover, you bring back Rose McGowan to do Tatum's. I think like Stu and Randy should be in there, if not at least just Stu, right? And then it's like, why are you having the Tatum thing is kind of like odd, right? Because the Tatum voice thing really makes it seem like they would have a flashback with the group. Because does it really make sense to do anything other than, or maybe like Dewey's dying, or Dewey is in danger, or Dewey's thinking about her and he like hears her. There's like that possibility, I guess, too. So I mean, there's always ways, around it. And the more I talk, or the more anybody talks, the more you may be able to, kind of walk yourself into more theories. But let me know, what you think. Let me know. I think it makes sense to bring him back in some capacity. I think it'd be really cool. And I think, there's a lot of ways they could do it right. It's not even like, well, one way's right and there's like 5 wrong ways to do it. I think, as long as you take care of the character, when you do show him or have him talk, I think, a lot of it could be done very, very well. You know what I mean? So let me know. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon. All my social media is in the description below if you guys want to check it out. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you all on the next video.